Hi, my name is Amod Singhal. I'm an IT consultant who enjoys making complex technical material easy to understand. In this tutorial, I'll explain null, true, false, and unknown values in SQL. Understanding how SQL treats null values is a must for anyone writing SQL queries. The scores table shown here is used for example queries in this tutorial. Note that for ID equals 3, the score value is null. To test for null values, use operators isNull and isNotNull. In this query, we're looking for rows where score is not null. So we get these 4 rows with IDs 1, 2, 4, and 5, excluding row 3, which is null. And the second query produces that third row with the value null, because here we're looking for where score is null. So now that you know how to test for null values, here's how not to test for it. Do not test for null values by using not equal to or equal to operators. Even though the value of score is not a null value for IDs 1, 2, 4, and 5, the first query returns an empty table. Similarly, even though the value of score is a null value, the second query also returns an empty table. This is due to SQL's 3-valued logic, which will be explained shortly. But first, let's understand how null is treated by the distinct clause and by aggregate functions. Remember this: all aggregate functions except count star ignore null. The distinct clause also ignores null. Let's consider some aggregates, with and without the distinct clause. The first is count star, which counts null. If we run the query, select count star from scores, we get back 5. This is because there are 5 rows in the scores table, including the row with null, and null is counted for count star. Next, we run the query select count score from scores. Here we get back 4 because ignoring null, there are 4 known values of score in the table. How about count distinct score? How many unique or distinct values does score have? The answer is 2. The distinct values are 30 and 40. Sum score is easy. The value is 60 as shown. How about sum distinct score? This is the sum of distinct values of score, 30 and 10. So we get the sum 40. Average score is not as intuitive. It is the sum 60 divided by the number of rows excluding null. So we get 60 over 4, which gives us 15. Finally, average distinct score is 20 as shown. Now let's talk about SQL's 3-valued logic. SQL expressions can evaluate to one of 3 values: true, false, or unknown. SQL uses 2 different approaches for different clauses. Where and having clauses use except true principle. This means except only if true, which treats unknown as false. The second approach, which is used for check clause of insert and update statements, uses reject false. This means reject only false, treating unknown as true. We will not cover this in this tutorial. We will only stick with the except true, which applies to where and having. Remember the comparison score not equal null and score equal null? Because null represents the absence of any value at all, the comparisons yield neither true nor false, but unknown regardless of score's value. And as we said, where and having clauses work on the except true principle, treating unknown as false. This is why every row is rejected, returning an empty table. An interesting note, not unknown also produces unknown. Testing for negation of score equal null is the same as testing for not unknown, which results in unknown. Finally, to recap, there are 5 takeaways. First, to test for null values, use operators is null and is not null. Don't use comparison operators equal or not equal. 2, all aggregate functions except count star ignore null. For these functions, it is as if the row with null did not exist. 3, the distinct clause also ignores null. 4, SQL has 3 truth values, true, false, and unknown. And finally, 5, where and having clauses of select statement except true. They treat unknown the same as false. And that ends this tutorial. I hope you found it useful and look forward to your feedback and comments. Thank you.